And today I'm here with my August wrap up. I got in a bit of a slump towards like in the first half of the month, well most of the month really, and then in the last week of August I read a lot. So I do have 9 books to talk about today for you in total, which amounted to 3,436 pages, and I owned 3 books that I read this month. I also started weekly vlogging at the end of the month, so go check this out if you want to know of more of like my in-depth thoughts at the moment of like reading these actual books. But let's get into more stats. For the TBR challenges, I read 2 books out of my comfort zone, 1 new book and 1 TBR vet. And for ratings, I gave 2 books 2 stars, 3 books 3 stars, 3 books 4 stars, and 1 book 5 star. I read 6 books by female authors and 2 books by male authors, and 1 is a collection of like essays kind of, so that has multiple gendered authors in it. Then I read 1 middle grade, 5 YA books and 3 adult books. For genres, I only read 4 genres this month, which I believe is like the least variety I've read in a month so far this year, so I'm sorry for that. I read 1 horror book, 5 contemporaries, 1 non-fiction, and 2 fantasies. Let's begin. The first book I finished this month is Imaginary Friend by Stephen Chbosky, which I gave 2 out of 5 stars. Got this from the library, but I had to return it, so a picture. This follows a little boy. After his father's death, his mom got into like an abusive relationship, and then the book starts when they went away from that relationship and they're kind of living in a motel room because they don't have enough money to live on their own. And then one day the boy goes missing in the woods, and he comes out of it and like he's completely changed. He's way smarter than he used to be, and all of a sudden his mom wins the lottery and they have like this big house. But our main character is like keeps getting like this call to the woods, and like he says that in the woods he survives because of this friendly man, but there is no trace of a actual human being there, and he still sees them like imaginary friends. You know what I'm talking about. That synopsis was pretty bad, but I don't know how else to explain it. But I really love this book, like the first half, and then the second half went like off the rails. Like the first half was like pretty slow, but I felt like it was building towards something and it was going well. I was getting invested into the characters, and then the second half just like a whole lot happened and not a whole lot of it made sense. I just feel like, you know, the first half Stephen Chbosky really took his time to explain everything. Well, not really explain everything because there was like still like a sense of mystery, but what you needed to know was very well explained. And then in the second half I just feel like he wanted to throw in a lot of action and not really explain why that is there, and it didn't really work for me, and like what was going on. A lot more side characters got introduced in the second half and just weren't developed. Like there was nothing really said much about them, so I couldn't really like keep them apart really, so that was also a negative. I don't like what eventually happens and like the whole explanation behind everything. The next book that I read is Piecing Me Together by Renée Watson, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. This is another book I had to return to the library. But this follows our main character who like lives in a poor neighborhood and is black, but she goes to a private school on a scholarship, and when the novel starts she is basically had the opportunity to like go to like this program which combines like adult women with teenage girls to kind of like guide them through life. And even though she gets partnered up with a black woman, our main character kind of feels lost because her partner comes from a wealthy family and had a rich upbringing, and it's mainly about our main character just kind of standing up for herself and creating opportunities for herself instead of like passively waiting for opportunities to come to her. And I feel like it's more of like a character study in a way. It's very character focused rather than plot focused, and I really enjoyed that. Actually, I think I like books that do that, but I do think at times it can be done wrong and it's kind of like a miss and it gets boring, and I feel like this book didn't do that. It kept me engaged. I was very engaged with the main character and I felt for her, and I really like understood her motivations behind what she was doing. I think the side characters were also pretty well developed, so that's also great, because this year I really have been struggling with the side characters that I don't know anything about, and I hate that. So I always feel like I need to point out when a book has good side characters. It's been so long since I read this book, thinking. And I don't know, I liked the journey our main character went through, and I feel like I think like that journey of like learning to stand up for yourself is something that a lot of teens have to go through, even if it is in like a completely different way. It's kind of just like learning to create opportunities instead of waiting for them, and standing up for yourself and knowing your own worth. I think that's something like every person has to learn. So I liked having a book focus on that, and also our main character had a passion for making collages, and I really like how frequent that was in the book. I feel like a lot of, especially like early YA books, I've seen more and more books now that where the hobby is the main part of the story, but I feel like a lot of like early YA, the hobby was prevalent in the beginning, and then when the plot starts going, like the hobby just starts fading off, and it's kind of like, did this character ever have a hobby? So I really like it when a character's like hobby or like passion is a big part of the novel. The main character also has a passion for learning Spanish, and every chapter title is also in Spanish, which I think was a great element to show just, I don't know, it felt more personal to the character that way, because her passions were shown a lot throughout the narrative. And the next book I read is Body Talk, 37 Voices Explore a Radical Anatomy, edited by Kelly Jensen. I actually got asked to be on the blog too for this, so it isn't a Kelly blog, even though like I got a tweet on Kelly, but I got an email asking if I want to be a part of the blog too, so I posted a blog for this book when it came out. I gave it 4 to 5 stars. This is a collection of mainly essays. It does have a couple of comics throughout it, but it's mainly essays about people talking about their bodies and their disabilities, or there were some trans authors that had to deal with body dysmorphia, and it's about that. Some talk about like the eating disorders, and some just talk about sometimes I'm not happy with my body, which is also completely fine. And I really liked it. I felt like it had a wide variety of talking about bodies, because I feel like it could have easily just gone like the eating disorder route, or the disability route, or the trans route, but it did all of that, and I feel like it did that in a way that was very well balanced. Every voice got its time, and I'm sure there's still like a lot of things around bodies that can be discussed, but I feel like it was like a great variety of things, and also a great variety of authors. And the only thing I did like is that there were some things that did come back, and like some lessons that did come back like a couple of times, and I felt like it was a little bit repetitive at times. Another thing I really enjoyed is that throughout the books you have like the essays from the authors, but for example there is a certain like disability talked about in this, and then before or after that story there will be like a little page basically just like explaining what the disability is, and like frequently asked questions about the disability, and I really enjoyed that, because that way you're also educating people on different disabilities or body dysmorphia. I feel like they also had something about body dysmorphia and eating disorders. They really like explained well everything, and it kind of kept the pressure of like the authors of those essays to put all that explanation in their essay, which would have brought down their experiences, like the way they talked about their experiences. And I really enjoyed that as well. The next book that I read is The Year Shakespeare Ruined My Life by Dani Jansen. I don't know how to pronounce it, I'm so sorry. My brain wants to pronounce it in Dutch, which I know is not correct. It is 2 to 5 stars. I got a galley of the Swinand Galley. This follows a girl who all her life has dreamt of being the valedictorian, and now she's in her senior year and she has to work towards it. So she joins the theater club because she thinks it will get like a great recommendation from the teacher that runs it, and she gets signed on as co-producer. But then the teacher just basically leaves her to do everything by herself. There was like another teacher on board that is the director, but like the teacher that was supposed to like take care of everything and make sure like people were involved, that teacher got pulled out and let the main character do everything. And she also has a crush on a girl who happens to audition for the play and get it, obviously. And yeah, that's the story of this book. This is another one that started off promising. Like, the problems I eventually ended up having big time with this book were present in the first half. My main problems being that the main character was very judgy and just had like a superiority complex, kind of like a high, like she was on a high horse, like that kind of thing, like she was better than everyone, and she was very like judgy towards other characters. And I felt like a lot of side characters were very one-dimensional and like a stereotype, an archetype, and like nothing more to it. And there's a god character, and like she's like the most stereotypical god character you can think of, which was kind of bothersome to me already from like the second she was introduced. But I had hope in the first half that, oh, things are gonna happen, people are gonna develop, we're gonna have arcs, we're gonna be great. That did happen, which was just very frustrating, because I do think like this is a book that, like, even like it has a plot, it does very much like hinges on the characters, and it's mostly about like a main character, like, I don't know, learning about herself, I guess, except that didn't really happen. I mean, it did happen, because the epilogue is like a college essay she writes, and like in that essay, like the way she talks is like she has changed, but like nothing in the actual narrative showed that she's changed, which is even more annoying. But overall, I think like the plot was pretty cute and fine. There was nothing really too much to it. I think at the first I was like, oh, this could be like a cute movie, like a cute teen rom-com, but then like, you know, the developments never happened. I was like, why? Let's move on from that book to one I actually liked, and that's Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. I didn't give this 5 stars. This was a reread, I do have to say that, but oh my god, I love this so much. I think I possibly love this more than the first time around. But basically, this book follows two characters, Leah and Elias. Leah is like a scholar, and her house gets raided by the Mask, which are like some sort of like super soldier type things. They wear masks, why they're called masks. But her house gets raided by them because her brother is accused of spying on the Masks, which, you know, isn't allowed. So he gets imprisoned. Her grandparents, who she lives with, get killed, and she is able to run away, and she goes to the rebels, and it's like, yo, it's your fault, my brother is in prison, so you're gonna get him out. And they're like, no, except we will if you go spy at the school for the Masks, because they have info we need. She's like, okay. So she goes as a slave to the school to try and find out more. And then we also follow Elias, who actually is a mask in training at the school and is about to graduate, and is planning on running away, deserting at his graduation, because he doesn't like the mask lifestyle. Except that on his graduation, I didn't me jumping in here because this part of the explanation just didn't make sense the way I did it. But basically, on Elias's graduation, these trials get announced to pick the new emperors. The current bloodline of emperors is dying out, and Elias gets picked to be in these trials. Now he's like in conflict with himself because he doesn't like this world, so why would he want to be the emperor? But he goes through with it, and things happen. I had a great time reading this book. I love these characters a lot, and I feel like I got very quickly reattached to them again, and I love spending time with them and just like learning about them more and more. I feel like the characters you're supposed to hate are done so well that you genuinely just hate them with your whole body, and the plot is so engaging and good. I feel like every word is like carefully decided upon to, you know, every word feels purposeful, and just so good. Like, there's nothing in this that I'm like, should this be here? No, it all serves a purpose, which is just so brilliantly made. I love Sabaa Tahir so much. It's so well written. And the next book I finished is Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan, which I gave 2 out of 5 stars. This book follows Rachel, who is in a relationship with Nick for 2 years, except she has never met his family, doesn't know like too much about it. And at the beginning of the novel, Nick invites her to go to Singapore for like a wedding of one of his friends, and also be introduced to his family. But little does Rachel know that his family is loaded, like insanely rich. Don't even want it. Can't even imagine how rich. That's how rich they are. And yeah, it follows a lot of different perspectives, and I feel like that was the downfall for me in this book, because majority of the perspectives I just didn't care about. I only care about 2 perspectives, like 3 characters in this book, and that's Rachel, Nick, and Astrid. and all the rest of the characters I just don't really like that much. There are some side characters that I do like, but we didn't get a perspective on them, do we? I don't remember. But like those are the only two that I'm really invested in, and for the rest I'm either like lukewarm or I just don't like them. Most I don't like, and I just feel like the many perspectives just kind of bogged down the story a little bit. There was like a lot of explanation which made everything just, I don't know, a little bit like bogged down, a little bit boring, and I don't know, I was kind of disappointed with that. The ending though is what I wanted. The ending is mostly focused on Rachel and Nick, and then there is a little bit like spliced through with like the other characters, and I feel like the whole book should have done like that, and then I would have loved it. Then the next book I read is Historically Inaccurate by Kagawa, which I give 2 out of 5 stars. It's another galley got from NetGalley. This one follows a main character whose mother recently got deported, and now like she's trying to get her life back to like normal in a way, and she does that by joining a history club at a college. And kind of as initiation process, she has to go to like this house from like this pretty old house, like pretty old couple, and she has to break in, steal a fork. And she first expects no one to be home, but then she ends up getting caught by the grandson of these people, and a lot happens. Yeah, I feel like this one is definitely the definition of a 3-star. The only thing that I genuinely can say that I didn't like is the ending. I just felt like it was a little bit too convoluted and it could have done better without it. And then also, and this is very minor because I feel like I've seen it done in books to a worse extent, is that I felt like the author tried to force in a lot of social commentary where it didn't belong necessarily. Just out of the blue would just start social commentary, and it's just like, this has nothing to do with the plot, but okay. And it just felt like forced in, and that's another thing that I just wasn't too big of a fan of. But like I said, I've seen it done worse in books before, so it didn't really bother me that much. But overall I did really enjoy this. It has a very, very diverse cast of characters. Like, there's a lot of people of color in here, a lot of queer people in here, so if you want a very diverse, all across the spectrum book, this is pretty good. I just felt like the plot was very basic and it's a little bit boring. Like the side characters were also just kind of, it's not like they were underdeveloped, but also there wasn't like too much to them. And then same with the main characters really, and I didn't really vibe with the romance that well. I feel like it wasn't built that greatly. It did have some moments where I was like, yes, but I never really reached like the full like feels. Then the second to last book I read this month is The Lost Prince by Julie Kagawa. I already gave a hint towards this in my Iron Face series discussion, and I already started this, also finished it. This is the first book in the Iron Face called The Forgotten series, which is a sequel series to the Iron Face series, but this follows Ethan, who is Megan's half brother. And I don't think I'm gonna tell you more about the series because I think it will spoil the original Iron Face series. So yeah, go watch my video on that series if you want to know more about that. I have a whole series discussion and I'll leave a link down below. But yeah, I ended up giving this 4 to 5 stars. I really enjoyed this, and I feel like this series has a lot more potential than the original. I kind of felt lukewarm about the original, but this one I'm very excited for. So the only complaints I have about this book is that it very much felt like a setup for the rest of the series, like getting introduced to these characters and to the state of like the place this world is in right now, and then also our like main problem. Those things got got introduced, and I'm excited to see where those things are gonna go in the future. But I do think like what this setup is playing into the elements of the world I thought were most interesting in the original series. I really like these characters. I feel like they're more dynamic and there's just more to them. I feel like our main character and his love interest balance each other out very well. I feel like it's kind, you know, the saying opposites attracts. I half agree with that, because you do have opposites that just are too opposite and like nothing works out, but these are the opposites that are like, yeah, they're very different, but they also have common ground and they fill each other out instead of just like constantly contradicting each other. And those are the ones I like, and I also think those are the ones that only work. But yeah, that was the like romance situation in this, and I'm really excited for that. Also, I think Ethan is a very interesting main character to follow because I feel like a lot of the times in urban YA fantasy, our main character is someone who is new to the world and like clueless and naive and doesn't really know about anything, and Ethan is like the complete opposite of that. He has knowledge of fairies for most of his life. He's very well versed in like mythology, like knows about the world. He also has fighting training, which I really enjoyed. Like he does some sort of martial arts, I don't remember what exactly. And I also read in the acknowledgements that Julie Kagawa also does that martial arts, so that's great. I know that is accurate, but I don't know, I just really like having a main character that you know is already knowledgeable about the world and knows how to fight, and we don't have to like learn those things again. I like that a lot. Then we have arrived to the last book of this video, and that's When Life Gives You Mangoes by Kereen, which I gave 2 out of 5 stars, and another galley I got from NetGalley. This is a meta grade novel. It's about a main character who lives on an island, and not a whole lot of new people arrive at this island, only like tourists, but they're not a big fan of tourists, and they have like a very like strong community. And before, like a year before this novel, she had like an accident happened, and because of that she lost her memory of that summer. She doesn't remember anything from that summer. So since then, also just like the people around her just have been treating her differently, and at the beginning of the novel a new girl comes to the island, and our main character just wants to like get to know this girl because this girl doesn't really know that much about her yet, so there's no way like she will be able to treat her differently because of last summer. And yeah, this is another one that had me in the first half but lost me in the second. Well, I feel like it lost me more towards the end than necessarily help. I feel like it was more like the last third or like the last fourth. But basically the way this started, I thought it was cute. It was a cute contemporary novel about friendship and like this island and just like imagination and being kids, and I was having a great time with it. It wasn't necessarily like a favorite, but it was all right. And the only problem I had for like the majority of this book is that like a lot of the side characters' motivations were just like non-existent, which was really frustrating because their actions impacted the story a lot, so like the main character's feelings a lot. So I would have liked to have a bit more motivations there, but then a big reveal happens. I feel like it's not even a quarter, like in the last quarter, it's like even later, and that reveal like does give motivations for the side characters, and I feel like they could have done something great with it, but I feel like every single thing done after that reveal is so quickly done, and there was just like no real time to sit with everything and to know what this means for our main character, because she immediately gets over with, and just like all the other side characters just immediately just like switch to now being nice to her, and besides, except like when at first they were mean, and I'm like, really? Just like the flip of a switch, you're not gonna give me more time with this, you're not gonna explain things better, you're just gonna be like, this is it, bye. That was so frustrating and just took away a lot of my enjoyment from the first half as well, because it changed everything about that. So I wasn't a fan of this, and I've read reviews. I'm very much the outlier in this, so I mean, go read reviews on this book and check out for yourself if you want to read this, because I know I'm very much the outlier. But those are my thoughts. Yeah, if you read any of these books, let me know in the comments below what you thought of them, as well as what are some of the books you read this month, and I guess I'll see you guys next time. Good. Here I am again, the same old situation. Why does the God thing have to be so